Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you celebrating or not celebrating. If you're alone, you could be our Valentine. If not, make sure you get some flowers today. You may not go out to dinner, but at least get some flowers, at least for your significant other. I am Kevin Rogers. Dave Sharapan will join us coming up in just a few minutes to talk about Super Bowl 56. Rams held off the Bengals 23-20. So LA gets their Super Bowl win at home. Bengals hung. They led in the fourth quarter, but the Rams, they got the go-ahead touchdown. Stafford to Cup. Cooper Kupp wins the MVP. And we'll talk about all this coming up in just a moment with Dave. But first, want to tell you about Sports Illustrated and the sports book there, sisportsbook.com. You can get up to $300 in free bets. Now, I want to tell you, this is only eligible in the state of Colorado. So if you're in Colorado, you're in luck. Get up to $300 in free bets. Make a bet of $10 or more and receive a $10 free bet up to 30 times. Again, new players only, 21 or older, only in Colorado. Promo code ROAD300. Full terms and conditions apply. That is the Sports Illustrated Sportsbook. All right, let's bring him on now. Our man, Dave Sharapan. Sure you never heard that one before, Dave, right?
No, you know what? You're an originator. There's people in this business that are originators, and there's people that are followers. You 100%, sir, are an originator, although not with that one. I've heard that.
Okay, just want to make sure. I figured in your lifetime, maybe, once or twice, who knows.
Yeah.
All right, my first question for you, because we have a lot to get to today
Yep.
with you, Dave. Number one, what's the handle on a game like this in Nevada? When you have, let me rephrase that. What's the handle, the breakdown? Mostly sides, totals, props. How does that whole thing work with a Super Bowl?
It's crazy, Kev. That was 80% side total, money line, and then 20% props when I was, first really got to Nevada and started doing it. And just watched it grow and grow and grow. And it's 50-50, if not 60-40 props now. It's just there's so many options and so much handle. And you bring in so many more people into it that have no vested interest in a side or don't want to bet the total, and the money line price is just too much, or they don't understand it. But they understand heads or tails. They understand pick the MVP. They understand Cooper Kupp over everything that he has available. So it's big, man, and it's fun. You forget until you're actually back in the book. Every play, somebody cheers for something, like the eruption for the first touchdown for the Odell Beckham catch. That it wasn't just because the Rams went up 6-0, and it wasn't because everybody in that room or the people that cheered had Beckham to score the first touchdown at whatever odds he was. I mean, it was good. So I think it was like 8-1, something like that. So yeah, it's props have taken over, man. It's not about the game anymore.
What are the top three props normally? I'm not saying you give me particulars as far as players, but is it what? Coin toss, MVP, first touchdown? Would you say that those are the top three props out there?
I would say those are the top three. They might vary, but you might have actually nailed the exact order as far as volume. But yeah, those are by far the most popular regardless of matchup. Those are the ones that draw the most action for sure, quantity ticket wise. Usually it's hard to say money wise because there are a lot of small bets, but ticket wise, volume wise, those are the three.
Now, when you look at the prop sheet, and we talked about it last week and everything that's released, how does that breakdown go on Monday after the game when you see sides and totals and what you won, lost, all of that? But do you have that full breakdown of the props and you look at it and you say, wow, we really did well with this one, or wow, that was a pretty stupid one that we put together? Do you really break that down?
Oh, you have that information an hour after the game. It was always a two-guy job for us. And I stayed to help as much as I could to do it because it's such a daunting task. But you grade those, and then you have the cross sport prop report, you have the wide receiver prop report, you have the running back prop right away. And then if anyone stays around to analyze it Sunday, by that time, when it's a good day like it was yesterday, you stay around and analyze it. When it's a bad day, when the score goes way over the total and a lot of those props go over, guys are like, yeah, I'll see you Monday, or I'll see you Wednesday, because Monday and Tuesday is a day off usually after the Super Bowl for the big guys. So you don't need to look at it right away, depending on the game. So I'm sure last night they were looking at all of it.
Now, you had 12 straight years, Dave, of the Super Bowl spread didn't matter.
Yeah.
Finally, it matters on Sunday. Bengals get the cover, Rams get the win. So for the sports books, that's a big day because favorites don't cover. Money line does for the favorites, but the chalk does not come through.
It's a perfect scenario. Okay, Roger. It's you get favorite win, dog cover. And this game gets bet a lot of times. It doesn't matter what the matchup is. They bet the favorite minus the points and take the dog on the money line. And it's been that way for years and years and years. So when you get the reverse of that, that's the sweet spot. Then you get the game to go under. That's a really sweet spot. And then you grade a lot of those props. They all go under, a lot of them, all these Cam Akers overs and Beckham overs, Cooper Kupp's yardage over, everything went under. So yeah, it's a big day. I'm interested to see. I mean, I talked to a couple guys last night from a couple different books, and I'm like, perfect scenario. And the one guy's like, perfect scenario. Yeah. We had a big day. Ice Cube wasn't in the halftime show, but it was a good day.
Well, we'll talk about the halftime show in a second. I want to get your thoughts on that. But with what's the most surprising prop that you thought came through last night?
Well, I mean, we were texting about it last night, right? The failed 2-point conversion was a botched, snap, extra point. Like in the ruling and the buzz, I mean, I was with a bunch of people and they're like, so is that a 2-point attempt? Is that, because a lot of people had, will there be a 2-point conversion attempt and then a successful one? So that was it. But one of many, the 23-20 final score was 100-1. And my co-host on Bostonian versus the book actually said that specific score on Friday and didn't bet it. 100-1, but a couple guys that listened to the show and stuff and did the exact score props. It's not even an unrealistic expectation. It's just hard to get both teams to hit it. So stuff like that, I think. Do you have one that was unbelievable to you?
I mean, the Mixon touchdown pass. I mean, the non-quarterback touchdown. I didn't have that, but I'm just saying, like, that was one where, like, oh, okay. But I'll give you another one too, Dave, that I noticed. Because I think I talked about this with you last week. I don't remember if I did, but I'll tell you now. I had Jamar Chase under 5.5 catches. He finished at 5, but wait a minute. Did you see the, lateral that Burrow threw to him for a 4-yard gain when they were driving down? They called that a run, not a catch.
What?
Remember Jamar Chase had that swing pass that Burrow threw him?
I'll have to go back and look. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
So wait, so he threw it overhand and it was considered a run?
I believe so, because Chase did not have any true running plays in the game. But if you look back at the play-by-play, when the Bengals were driving down for the touchdown, the one where Mixon threw it a couple plays later for the touchdown pass, Burrow threw a short pass to Chase for about 4 yards. But if you watch the replay, I think that Chase was out of the backfield. I don't think they considered that a reception. I think they called that a run. But we can look at that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I was counting Chase's catches, and I figured he only finished with 5. It seemed like he had way more than that.
That's crazy, because something like that's a big swing. If that, that's already been done and graded. So if that would ever be changed, I don't know. That's always one of the hardest things after the game. You got to, you get an official report, like, you go NFL, whatever, and you get that, and then you double cross check it with another source or two, and then you grade it, because once it's graded and all those tickets get paid, it's gone. So making a mistake grading the Super Bowl props is not a hangable offense, but it doesn't do anybody any favors. What about that 2-minute warning thing falling right on the 2-minute warning too? Were you texting me yesterday
Yeah,
about that?
the non 2 minutes, like under 2 minutes, was the underdog on that one. So the favorite was hitting on 2 minutes.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
of course, it's an interception on that play that if for whatever reason the play would have gone off 1 second later and he would have caught the ball, it was like 159,
Yeah.
then you would have had the win there. Now, I want to go over a couple other things as far as in the game. What do you think about Sean McVay just keep running the ball in inopportune situations? That seemed kind of silly.
Yeah, but this is not something that we haven't seen. Like, he gets that way when you have that defense and you have Aaron Donald basically living in the backfield with Vaughn Miller. Those guys were, how many times did Burrow get hit? He was just like, all right, I can't lose this game passing the ball. I can't. I just can't. I mean, if he throws another pick, I'm going to lose the game. I can't lose this game. I'm going to run. I'm going to run. I'm going to run. And we're going to play defense. And then we're going to take our shot with the drive. You could see it. Again, yes, it's boring. Yes, it's frustrating to watch as a fan, especially someone holding a Rams -4 or 4.5 ticket. But I'm not surprised. I was surprised the second half, like, started with the touchdown. I was like, "Oh, this thing's flying over. This has got to go way over now." And he did what he does: run the ball, run the ball, run the ball.
The only thing I think I hit, the only prop, and I told you this one that I actually hit, was the Burrow under 1.5 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about the touchdown with the face mask?
I mean, how's the penalty not called? How's the penalty not called? He grabbed his head, turned his head,
Yeah.
which I when you're watching the games, like, you don't realize, like, how fast and athletic these guys are. But one little tug like that with the speed and everything, that's it. That affects the game. You're a hockey guy. The official tells you it's not a penalty when a guy hacks you. But if he takes away a scoring chance and knocks the stick out of your hands, then it's a penalty. The play resulted in a touchdown, swung the game. How is that not a penalty? Like, how could that be missed? It's on the offense. I don't know. It was frustrating. That was one of a few frustrating things that I saw.
Because it felt like the Rams were in control, and you have that play. I still believe, Dave, to get the call right, even pass interferences, if it's blatantly obvious, it's got to be looked at. This is the biggest game of the season. You're having 5-minute commercial breaks. What's the big deal of looking at this when you see Jalen Ramsey's helmet getting turned to say, you know what, that's probably offensive pass interference?
I don't disagree with you at all. I think that's the spirit of it. We have the technology and the tools necessary to do it. The guy watching the game can just hit a buzzer like the old beepers that we used to all have and just hit him with it and say, now. Okay, that means call right now. Run over to the sideline. What's up? That was pass interference. On the offense, pull it back. He ripped his helmet. It's clear and obvious. I mean, it would be like having multiple lawyers in a courtroom, right? The other guy knows. You tell the judge, hey, this happened. We make it, an objection, and boom, you get the play right. I think that would do us justice as fans. I think the players would like it. And if it means extending the game, like you said, especially the Super Bowl with these 5-minute commercial breaks, so what?
Yeah, I don't understand why they can't do that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, I know he got hurt, but at least the limited time he was in with Odell Beckham and the impact that he made. We know how good Kupp is, and he had the go-ahead touchdown. He won the MVP. But what about at least Beckham's contribution? He had that touchdown at the beginning, and like you said, people probably took Beckham on a flyer for first touchdown of the game. But before he got hurt, just his impact for the Rams.
I think what I was thinking while I was watching the game was, man, if Beckham was in, this might be a blowout. Because it looked like he had a big part of the game plan. In the last couple weeks, you saw him getting more of a rapport and obviously trust with Stafford. I think it's hard to say because he wasn't in, but had he been in, I think the Rams would have scored more points. I think the game plan may have been less conservative than it was, even with the game script the way it went down. I was very impressed with Beckham. I mean, another one of those signings that the Rams went all in and did and got, and I mean, they're Super Bowl champs today.
If Sean McVay loses this game, Dave, does he look like a real donkey 2 times in the last 4 years? They bring in Stafford in the offseason thinking he's an upgrade from Goff, which he was. But because of the conservative nature of the way he called plays in the second half, if they don't end up getting some breaks with penalties and getting down the field in the 4th and 1 with Kupp that worked out, does he look like kind of a donkey today?
I think, yeah, the story's very different today, obviously, if he loses. But you know how hard it is to get there. And so getting there is one thing. Play calling and having these questions, I think with the scrutiny and now with the gambling being such a prevalent part of it, we have an opportunity to talk about it, look at the numbers, and bring it more to light. Yeah, if he loses, he's getting roasted today. I think we're talking as much about the Bengals and Taylor winning it with Burrow and what that means for them going forward in one direction, but also what it means for McVay and the Rams to have been there twice in the last 4 years and not really play well and lose. So yeah, I think it's a way different story.
Now, I'm a negative Nancy at times, and I don't I don't mind admitting that. But everyone said when the Panthers went 15-1, it's okay. Cam will be back, MVP. Matt Ryan and the Falcons blow that big lead to the Patriots. They'll be back. Everyone's kind of going, Dave, with the Joe Burrow will be back. It'll be fine. I live in South Florida. Dan Marino was there his second year, never went back. I feel like with the Chiefs, still who should have beat them in the AFC Championship, with the Bills, Baltimore will be healthier next year. Chargers will be better next year. You have other teams that you think would improve. I feel like the window is going to shut on them. I really do, to get back to another Super Bowl. Tell me I'm wrong on that.
I can't tell you you're wrong. I've seen it, and I agree with you. Was with people last night that were like, oh, man, Burrow's going to be great for the next decade. Like, what are you guys talking about? I mean, did you see him twist his knee again? He keeps getting hit all these times. Like, they got to get an offensive line. They got to get a wall immediately to protect him, to build this team to be sustainable. I'm with you. I mean, look at the odds. I mean, it's Chiefs and Bills already as the favorites to win the whole thing. You throw in right away the Ravens, like you said, are right there. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the AFC, I was talking about it with a couple odds makers yesterday that are in a couple different books here in town. If Aaron Rodgers goes to Tennessee, they become the co-favorite along with the Chiefs and the Bills. Right to that price, he said. I'm making them right to that price because they're going to sweep the division most likely, maybe 5-1. And they're going to have a home game. They might have a home field advantage. Again, that doesn't mean they go, but I'm changing the odds immediately. If he goes to Denver, doesn't have that quite effect, but it drops it in half. So from 20-1, 25-1, it goes to 15, maybe 17 right away without a single thing other than that happening. I think the AFC is going to be very, very formidable going forward. It's not the Bengals along. I don't even put them at the same level as the Chiefs and the Bills to start.
Yeah, look, I don't want to rain on what Cincinnati did. Burrow was great. Jamar Chase had a fantastic season, but things broke their way. Lamar Jackson was out the second half of the year. Baltimore was rolling. Like, they were really in control of that division before he got hurt. And Cleveland, of course, they shoot themselves in the foot every year, it feels like. But again, with these other teams, the Bengals could have lost to the Raiders. They could have lost to the Titans. They could have lost to the Chiefs. They end up losing to the Rams. There was, the Rams dominated, Dave, Tampa Bay in that second round. They dominated them. Yeah, the Bucs came back and tied it, but they were up 27-3 in that game. That wasn't a back-and-forth game.
No, the Rams gave them 4 turnovers. Cooper Kupp fumbled, Akers fumbled twice, and boom, Tampa was back in it. Otherwise, you're right. They're running them out of the building. It's so hard. He brought up Marino, and that makes me sad because I remember thinking as a 13-year-old kid back in the day, he'll be back. He was never back. He was never back. And they had great offensive teams, right? They didn't really run the ball well. They didn't really have to because Marino won them a lot of games. And their defense wasn't always near the top of the league. What does that sound like? It sounds just like Cincinnati, right? Although Cincinnati's defense, highly underrated, kept them in so many games. I think Cincy's going to be right there, but they gotta get some, offensive line help immediately.
Well, and also too, even staying on the Marino point, I know it kind of hits you with him being a Pitt guy. You guys, you're Penn State guys, and they kind of hate Pitt a little bit, but you're still from Pittsburgh, so you still like Marino a little bit.
I hated Penn State growing up. I hated with a passion Penn State growing up because that's all we knew. And I watched almost all of Dan Marino's home games in college because, my dad said, yeah, you guys can go watch Pitt. So when he got to the Super Bowl, we were rooting for him, just like Detroit was rooting for Stafford. It was like, oh, this kid's from Pittsburgh. I mean, rival high school of mine. Let's go. And fun to watch. I have a Dan Marino jersey from back in the day, of course. And the fact that he didn't get back, I think if you ask him, he will tell you, if you get him to say it honestly, that hurts. There's a lot of years where they were really good and just it's very hard to win those games in the playoffs with everything on the line.
I mean, shoot, you look at the Bills, and they went 4 straight years and couldn't win. I mean, so it's like, they'll be back. Yeah, we're back. We still can't win. And again, I go back to, the Steelers are going to be rebuilding because now Ben's gone. The quarterback is going to be, again, the Browns, who knows? But the Ravens will be better, and there's other teams in the AFC, and even a team you mentioned too, Tennessee, assuming they don't get Aaron Rodgers, stick with Tannehill and Henry's healthy, that's still a pretty good team. So and you don't know what the Patriots will be now with Mac Jones. They took a lot of positive steps this year. I just think Cincinnati, with everything they did, and they lived on the edge every single week in the playoffs, leading in the fourth quarter, you got to close that one out. You got to. That was it. Yeah,
it was. And it was funny because I was watching the in-game line too, and I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, now's the time. They have to score again, or they have to do something, because if they let this hang around, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, pardon me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Not that their window was closing, but I felt like while I was watching the game, it's not done yet. Like I still didn't believe they were there and they were going to win. And then with that opening, I was with a guy who had Rams money line. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh man," I said, "Just relax. I think they're going to score." And it just you wanted the Bengals to hold on. I just knew it. And now you get that close. Next year's huge for them as a franchise, for Joe Burrow, for a lot of things. They got to make the playoffs. I don't even know. They're probably not even favored. They're not even, depending on the schedule, Kev, they won't even be the favorite to win the division right now.
Doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. And that's not a slight on them. It's just you overachieved this year. And you know what? I hate to say this, Dave. I know teams have their slip-ups. You lost to the Jets. You lost to the Bears this year.
That was 2 slip-ups.
That's bad. I mean, the
That's
Jets,
bad.
not even to Zach Wilson, their starting quarterback. That was to Mike White, right? They
Oh,
scored a
that's
couple
right.
yards on him.
That was the Mike White game. They were 10-point favorites on the road. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, you're allowed one stinker, not two.
What did you think about the halftime? I thought it was great.
Oh my gosh. I have to rewatch it again because I have never seen this happen. And I've been in the books for halftime, usually taking bets and always watching it when I got home because halftime bets are usually, I mean, it's crazy. Wasn't as much of a rush this year like at the Westgate because everybody has the app. They can just go right on their thing or they already have the betting game. But people got up and were dancing. People got up and were pointing and doing the thing. Like they put it on the whole screens, cranked up the music. I felt bad for the people trying to write tickets and hear someone at the counter because nobody was paying attention. It was awesome. It was absolutely great. And they brought them up when it started, and the place went like the whole place stopped to watch the halftime show. I mean, the people in the back, the bartender stopped serving drinks. Everybody was just enjoying the show, man. It was a lot of fun.
Here's my takeaway after it all happened. Now, I was in high school, college when when Eminem was big, I was in college. When 50 Cent was big, I was in college. Snoop and Dr. Dre are more like 90s when I was in high school. But follow where I'm going with this for a second, Dave. I can understand where people didn't like it from this standpoint. If you're older, if you're like my parents' age,
right?
You don't know who Snoop Dogg is, Dr. Dre, you've heard of them, you don't know their music. Last year, The Weeknd, I don't really listen to The Weeknd. So I was like the fuddy-duddy, where I'm like, I don't really care about this because I don't really know your music. But Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, I'm like, oh, I'm all in on this.
Right. It hit the wheelhouse for a lot of people. And the ones that didn't, that's fine. Like just go get something to eat. It's halftime. Just go for a walk, breathe, let us enjoy the show. How hard is it to come up with a halftime that everybody's going to like? You can't. But last night hit the sweet spot for a lot of us. That was fun. Snoop is the coolest guy in his 50s ever. Like, I mean, he comes up and he starts, and you hear the da 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 da. That's it. It's over. Let's go. As soon as that was the first song, you had me at hello. I was done. I was like, oh, hell no, stop talking. Because people were texting me, what do you think about the halftime? Would you bet this? Would you bet that? I have this. Should I hedge this? I was like, listen, leave me alone for 10 minutes, please. I just want to watch this. And then I got caught up in something else. Somebody had a Rams future. They're like, what do I do with this Bengals halftime? I was like, all right, man, come here. So I got to go back and watch it a little bit later this afternoon. I'll probably watch it 3 times and rock it out. I can't wait.
Because, look, again, older people are going to say, I like when Paul McCartney was there or when Bruce Springsteen or one of the, like, admittedly, I'm totally the minority on this one, Dave. I'm not a Prince fan. So everyone that said, the Prince, it was so great. I'm like, I don't like him. So I'm never going to come around to it because I just don't like his music.
Right.
So that's where, people, you talk about, you made a good point. You can never make everyone happy because it's never going to be a generational thing where a 70-year-old and a 30-year-old is going to like the same thing. The 7-year-old is going to say, oh, I don't like this. But then a 30-year-old sees Paul McCartney and they're like, oh, I don't want to see Paul McCartney. So it's just, but the one good thing they did last night, I think this is the recipe for the future. Have a lot of acts up there. Don't just have one person. I think the one person gets old. You need to rotate them out, and that's what worked well.
Couldn't agree more because even within the house, when I got home, I said, what did you guys think of the halftime show? And someone was like, well, Mary J. Blige, I don't really like that. She's a taste, this and that. But the rest of the show was great. Oh, well, Eminem was the best, this and that. And like, oh, well, so I think 100%, I think it's a parlay. It's not a straight bet, to use a betting term.
Yep.
It's a multiple game parlay. Mesh them together. in and out fade, whatever you got to do. But I think you have to do multiple acts to make it the most successful.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and they did a good job. And when they announced the halftime show, when they announced who was going to perform for months, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be great. I can't wait for this. When it's Maroon 5 in Atlanta, I'm like, I don't really care. I'm going to go in the other room. Like that, I'm like, I don't really care about that. That's not getting me going.
That's exactly right, though. But that's okay. Like, we're going to have that. Next year's Super Bowl's in Phoenix. So hopefully I'm going to talk to the guy and see if you can get out and do Radio Row. Have you ever done Radio Row?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, several times. Yeah.
Do you want to do it again? I had so much fun doing it in LA. I mean, but that's my jam. I was just like talking to people and doing shows. So you've done it already. So you're a veteran. So you'd rather.
I want to ask you, how did it end up? I saw some pictures on social media. I mean, it looked like you had a great time, but wrap it up. How did it all go from Monday to Friday?
It was awesome. I mean, I kind of stayed on East Coast time, so I was there before the sun came up a lot of times doing East Coast hits, and then just working the room. The food could have been better. They kept it as cold as it could possibly be. Like, it was so cold in that room that I was bringing sweatshirts and jackets to go inside. It was 80 outside in LA, and it was like 50 inside. But I got to meet a lot of people and hang out with a lot of people that I have done shows with like this virtually that I've never met in person. So for me, it was great in that regard. And then, like, I'm a big fan of the Pat McAfee show and the boys and stuff. I've had him on my podcast and stuff. I got 15 minutes with Pat that, we did an interview that was just fantastic. And then some other people. I mean, it was a lot of fun for me. I didn't get to experience LA, but that's okay because I've experienced LA. I was there to work, Kevin. I kept telling these kids, I'm like, I'm not going out to the party that starts at 10 because I'm waking up at 4:45 to do a hit on MLB Network at 6 a.m. So no, enjoy the party. I'll see you guys at the media center. But it was great. I had a blast.
Where are you going to go, to Rodeo Drive? I mean, where are you going to go in LA?
I don't know. I ended up one night, I did dinner with some people. We ended up in some place in West Hollywood at the dinner in a roof of some paella and fafali and all these other. I got the menu and I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I have no idea. And the woman that was with us ordered everything. She hit a 5-game parlay, Kev. Everything she ordered was amazing. And it was Peruvian food. I can't pronounce one thing that we got. I loved it all.
Who were you most starstruck by in Radio Row? You saw this person, and I'm not saying if you met them necessarily, but even if you just saw them, you're like, oh, that person's here.
It's hard to say. I really don't get starstruck anymore. I was awed by like the size of Hayward from the Steelers. He was so big. And when you realize, like, with no pads on, I was like, oh my goodness, look how big this guy is. But I mean, I sat and talked to Michael Buffer. That was so much fun. It was not in awe. You know who really impressed me? So they, how this goes. So they walk around with publicists and handlers, and they're like, hey, I have so-and-so to get on your show. And you're like, I don't even know what I would talk to him or her about. Like, I don't know. I'm good. And then they're constantly throwing these fact sheets at you. Hey, do you have any times? So this woman was walking around saying, I have Mel Renfro with me, Hall of Famer, blah, 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 blah. And I was with Peralta, like, okay. And then she came around again, and like Mel Renfro's in a walker in a Hall of Fame jacket, and nobody wants to talk to him. They'd rather talk to the TikTok superstars giving out 4-game, 5-game parlays. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? We'll talk to Mel. Come on, send him over. So I talked to Mel Renfro, and he played for the Dallas Cowboys. And I asked him about Super Bowl 10 against the Steelers because that's my memory of the game is Lynn Swann making those catches. And I said, hey, Mel, were you supposed to be covering Lynn Swann that game? And his eyes light up and he leans back. He's like, I was on the other side of the field on Stallworth all day. You see his stats? He didn't catch nothing. And he opens up and starts talking. And it was one of those conversations that I will never forget. And I hope that I did for as much for Mel as he did for me, giving me 15 minutes of time. These guys remember everything. I remember plays that I made in 5th grade football because it was a big play for me. These guys did that on the field in an NFL Super Bowl, and they remember it, and maybe nobody's asked them about it for 20 years. And I tell him, and his eyes light up, and he's getting all excited. He's ready to go cover somebody. I said, Mel, could you cover anybody in today's game? Because you were physical and stuff. He's like, I didn't have to grab anybody. I was just faster and broke on the ball. And he did it with that little Southern accent. I was like, damn, Mel, you're still a bad dude. It was great. So stuff like that, it was just the whole experience was fun for me.
Well, I'm glad you were able to go, and I'm glad you were able to experience it. It was great, and hopefully next year maybe we'll be out in Arizona with you, and we can do this thing in Phoenix
and end up at the Phoenix Open for that one day, hopefully. And did you see that hole-in-one on Saturday? Did you catch that?
I heard about it on social media. I didn't get to check it out. But I know it was a big party that they were throwing beer everywhere, and it was the whole thing.
It was fantastic, and I thought, like, you want to talk about people that didn't like the halftime show, watch the highlights of that golf hole-in-one. There's 20,000 people around that hole. They have found a way to build a stadium around a golf hole. Guy gets a hole-in-one. They go crazy. They shower everybody with water, beer. They just start throwing it up. And then they throw everything onto the green. They shower the green with the cans, the bottles, and everything. They squeegee them off, and it's done. It's a huge celebration. It was a cool moment. And you got people saying, this is golf. You can't do that. It's disrespectful. Stop. All of it, stop. It's sports, people. Enjoy it. And then, with us, maybe bet on it too.
Dave Sharapan, always great having him on the Daily Insider. Find him on Twitter at SportsBKConsig, and always enjoy talking to him every Monday. And Dave, we hope to continue this with you in the non-football season.
For sure. So, any way we can, Kev. It's always fun to talk to you as well, and hopefully people enjoy watching it. But people in the industry that know the stuff when you have these questions, because I'm not going to lie, I did a couple interviews with people that I'm not sure they ever watched a sporting event in their life, and they wanted to know about stuff. You got to be a true professional some of those times. And I don't mind helping, talking to young kids and people that are trying to get into business, but this is always one of my favorite conversations every single week.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, and March Madness around the corner, of course, NBA. So we got a lot going on. So work on that fadeaway.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Little dribble back, fade away. I could take it to the hole too, but I like to stay outside. I can't take the contact in the lane anymore.
Nah, you don't want to get in there with the trees. You don't want to do that.
No.
Dave, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, man. Talk to you later, K. Rush.
All right, there's Dave Sharapan. Always love talking to Dave. And so I love the halftime. I did, and I still look, and I believe it, not from a negative standpoint, but you're never going to get the age breakdown to work out for everyone. The older people want the older acts, the younger people want the younger acts, the Gen X people, which I guess I'm in the middle of, they want those acts. So we won this year because the Gen X has not had a lot of victories in the Super Bowl halftime shows. It's been since the whole Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson thing happened that we've trended older a little bit, but now they've gone a little younger. So that's good. But no, they did a great job last night. That was definitely a lot of fun there at halftime. Let's look at the NBA for tonight. So football's in the rearview mirror, but let's get to the NBA because we have plenty of NBA now. We have plenty of college basketball now as well, and that's what we got for a while because who knows when baseball's coming back. So let's start it off with the NBA this evening, and the Pistons and the Wizards, they meet up in Washington. Detroit's still at 12-44. Washington 25-30. And the Pistons, they have dropped 7 straight. And their last 3 losses by 30 at Dallas, by 25 to Memphis, and by 22 to Charlotte. So it's not been good for the Pistons of late. Back-to-back overs. They allowed 132 to Memphis, 141 to Charlotte. So they look to somewhat play better defensively tonight. The Wizards, we know they're kind of broken down. Bradley Beal's done for the season. Montrezl Harrell got traded to Charlotte. Not a lot there. Wizards off a 13-point loss to Sacramento on Saturday. 71 in the second. Put that one over the total. There are 3 straight overs. Wizards did beat the Pistons earlier this season in overtime back in Detroit. So now the Kings continuing their road trip. And Sacramento, the number dropping to 2 at some places now against Brooklyn. And the Kings, they're 22-36. What the Kings are throwing out there tonight is better than what the Nets are throwing out there. Kyrie's not playing. The game's at Barclays Center. Can't play. Harden's gone. Ben Simmons not ready to play. Durant's hurt. Maybe Seth Curry plays tonight. We'll see if he ends up going in because he was part of that trade with the 76ers. But Sacramento, when you look at their top 3 guys, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Harrison Barnes, that's better than whatever 3 Brooklyn's throwing out there tonight. So the Kings right now, they're laying 2.5 against the Nets, who have lost 11 in a row. Go over to Manhattan. Knicks and Nets actually play, I believe, Wednesday night. And the Knicks tonight get the Thunder. I don't know if you caught it. It was on Saturday afternoon. It was kind of a funky start time, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. The Knicks were in control over the Blazers, and they led by 23 in the third. They got outscored 35-11 in the fourth. Lost at Portland 112-103 on Saturday, laying 4.5. Got outscored by 24 in the fourth to a Blazer team that is rebuilding, to say the least. And they had just beaten the Lakers a few days earlier, but the Knicks, just a terrible job. They lose 4 or 5 on that road trip. Now they're back at home to face Oklahoma City. And the Thunder beat the Knicks by 15 in OKC, 95-80 back on New Year's Eve. Oklahoma City's actually won 4 of the past 5 meetings with New York. But Knicks laying a ton tonight, and we'll see how they bounce back at home. We'll see. The Spurs and the Bulls, the DeMar DeRozan Bowl, we can call it that tonight, in Chicago. Bulls laying 4.5, total of 233.5. Bulls at 36-21. San Antonio playing better, 22-35, but they shot lights out against Atlanta on Friday, putting up 136. They put 124 up on New Orleans the next night. So Spurs have won 3 of 4, playing a little better. And after this, they go to Oklahoma City, then get Washington, their first game after the All-Star break. So the Spurs, they could win tonight in Chicago. Maybe get a little momentum. Bulls have won 3 straight, even though they didn't cover against Oklahoma City on Saturday. They won by 5, 106-101, laying 9.5. Last time these teams played was back in San Antonio, January 28th. Spurs pulled away for a 131-122 victory. The Blazers and the Bucks tonight. Again, Portland, not the roster you expect. Anthony Simons playing well for them, but Portland, again, Chauncey Billups, his team is just in rebuild mode. McCollum's gone, Lillard's hurt. But the Blazers, they've won 2 straight, so that's a positive, and they are right now riding a 6-1 under streak. So Blazers, I don't understand, playing better defense or however you want to say it, but Portland's, what's interesting is the only over during the stretch, 137-108 loss at home to Milwaukee. Now they get the Bucks again. They were getting 11 in that game. Now they're getting 14.5. And Milwaukee back home after the 24-point loss at Phoenix in the NBA Finals rematch last Thursday. That snapped a 4-game winning streak for the Bucks. But Milwaukee has hit the over in 4 straight. And that was the first time that they really were shut down. They had 137, 137, 131. First 3 games of that trip, then 107 against the Suns. Obviously, a game the Suns were going to be pretty motivated for. The Raptors and the Pelicans, they meet in New Orleans tonight. It's a tough game to handicap because the Raptors, who have played very well, they edged the Pelicans last month, 105-101 at home, 7.5-point favorite. So the Pelicans got the cover there. Toronto had won 8 straight before losing by 1 to Denver on Saturday, 110-109 as 5.5-point favorites. Toronto has covered 5 in a row as a road favorite. They've won and covered 5 in a row on the road overall. So the Raptors playing well in that respect. New Orleans, who had a 4-game winning streak, they've dropped back-to-back games to Miami and San Antonio at home. So now you get them as a home underdog. And in case you missed it Saturday, I don't blame you if you did, but CJ McCollum had 36 for the Pelicans. That was his second game, 15 of 24 from the floor. How about Devontae Graham? 0 of 6 from the floor, 0 points in that one. Ingram had 22. But the Pelicans, we know they don't have a lot of depth there. They're going to depend on McCollum and Ingram and Valanciunas to carry them. Magic and the Nuggets in Denver, and actually revenge spot for the Nuggets, interestingly, because the Magic rallied to beat them at home earlier this season, one of their very few home wins or wins overall. But Orlando off back-to-back road losses at Utah by 15, at Phoenix by 27, and Orlando wraps up their trip tonight in Denver. Nuggets off back-to-back road games, lost at Boston. They were, I'm not saying in control of that game, but I guess I'll rephrase myself. 9-point lead at the half at Boston. Lost, but covered as 7-point dogs. They edged Toronto, as I just mentioned, by 1 on Saturday. So now they're back home. Then they go to Golden State on Wednesday night. So interesting scheduling spot for the Nuggets. And they get the Magic tonight as a heavy favorite. Jazz and the Rockets in Utah, they've turned things around because Donovan Mitchell's back. So if he's back, they're going to be better. Houston off a 19-point loss to Toronto. They've dropped 4 in a row, 0-4 straight up, or 0-4 ATS during this 4-game skid for them. And they're 1-8 in their last 9 overall. Utah's won 5 straight. So that losing stretch for the Jazz now has disappeared. And during this 5-game winning streak all at home, because they play the Lakers coming up Wednesday in LA, 5 straight unders. They've allowed 104, 102, 104, 85, and 99. The 85 to Golden State, Klay Thompson didn't play. But they're laying a ton here. And what's interesting is the Rockets did win at Utah last month, 116-111. So Houston, not say they have confidence in beating Utah, but they have won there already one time this season. Final NBA game of the night, the late night, Warriors-Clippers out in L.A., and Golden State here laying 5.5, total of 220.5. Golden State at 42-15. Clippers at 28-30. L.A. snapped their 3-game skid, winning at Dallas 99-97 on Saturday, getting 6.5. Luka lit them up twice when the Clippers were in Dallas. But the Clippers, though, I mean, look, this isn't an easy stretch they've gone through. Dallas twice, Memphis, Milwaukee. They beat the Lakers by 1. Golden State, though, they bounced back from a couple losses by edging the Lakers on Saturday. They didn't cover, though, laying 6 points. So Golden State an 0-4-1 ATS slide right now. And Golden State has won the first 2 meetings with LA by 2 and by 15. Both games stayed under the total. So we'll see how that one turns out coming up a little later tonight. 2 college games we'll hit on before we exit today. The 2 ESPN games, Big Monday. Virginia and Virginia Tech inside the ACC. And the Hokies laying 4.5 at home. Virginia, they have picked it up. They've won 4 straight, 5 of 6. They beat Duke during this time. They held off Georgia Tech by 10. Now Virginia makes a short trip to Blacksburg. Hokies have won 5 in a row, so they've picked it up after losing 3 straight. One at Florida State, beat Syracuse, but also beat Pitt twice and Georgia Tech. But Virginia Tech, though, last time they faced Virginia, lost by 2 in Charlottesville, 54-52, total of 116.5. Tonight's total of 118.5. And Virginia's pretty much had Virginia Tech's number over the years. So we'll see if that continues tonight. Oklahoma State and Kansas, they meet in Lawrence. Kansas held off Oklahoma on Saturday. So the Jayhawks, they've had a couple escapes this year, 20-4. Cowboys are 12-12. Big win over West Virginia, still trying to keep their tournament hopes alive. But Oklahoma State, though, they have lost now, 5 of 7. And they did beat Oklahoma last weekend. Kansas, They dominated Baylor, lost to Texas, and they melted down at the end of that game last Monday. So they're back on Big Monday again. And the Jayhawks, look, they're rolling right now. Baylor had a big win over Texas on Saturday at home. Kansas won already at Stillwater, 74-63, laying 6.5 back in January, now laying 10.5. So we'll see how that one turns out for Bill Self. And he faces a team that he played with. Bill Self's a Cowboy. Bill Self, actually, let me just double check that one. I don't want to give any false information here. He just make sure he went to Oklahoma. Yeah, he went to Oklahoma State. I want to make sure on that one because I know he coached there for a little bit. He was an assistant for a while, but he did play at Oklahoma State, and I was pretty sure about that one. But just want to double check, just in case we don't have any sort of issues here. So before we let you go here, Sports Illustrated Sportsbook, it is live in Colorado, eligible only in Colorado, 21 years or older. Get up to $300 in free bets. Make a bet of $10 or more and receive a $10 free bet up to 30 times. Again, this is for new players only. And only in Colorado, promo code ROAD300. Check them out at sisportsbook.com. And full terms and conditions apply. So check them out today. Mike, thanks to Dave Sharapan for joining us on the show. Always enjoy talking to Dave. And we'll talk to him a lot more once we get to March Madness and kind of go from there. And coming up tomorrow, Stephanie Odie will be back on with us. And she'll join us on Tuesday and Thursday this week. And we'll talk a lot of Super Bowl with her. She was pulling for the Bengals. So we'll get her feel on the game. So we'll have that coming up tomorrow at noon Eastern. And again, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate it for our best bet videos, as well as the Daily Insider, the Great Day Nation podcast with Morton Anderson, all of that you can find on our YouTube channel. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.